Donald Trump has launched a libel action against CNN, accusing the U.S. broadcaster of comparing him to Hitler. The former president is seeking $475 million in damages. Mr. Trump accuses CNN of carrying out a slanderous campaign against him because it fears he'll stand again for the presidency in 2 years' time. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Arise U.S. correspondent Eric Ham, who joins us from Washington. Is this a surprise, or is it the kind of thing that you would expect Donald Trump to do?
No, Charles, this is not a surprise at all. In fact, if you go back to Donald Trump's tenure as president, we saw him spar quite mightily with CNN over those years. We saw a number of videos where it looked as though he was in a WWE matchup with CNN. We saw him suspend the White House press credentials to Jim Acosta, then CNN's White House correspondent. So we have seen Donald Trump end this back and forth with CNN throughout his tenure. Now we see the president actually filing this lawsuit against CNN. And what he is doing in this lawsuit that was filed in the state of Florida, he is saying that the network has damaged his character, has impugned his reputation by comparing him to Hitler in a number of ads, and also saying that he has promoted a big lie in relation to the election of 2020, which Donald Trump claims was stolen. And so what we're seeing here is the president has filed this $475 million libel lawsuit against CNN. But also, Charles, we have to remember that Donald Trump is no stranger to lawsuits against media companies. We know that he sued both Twitter and Facebook after he was kicked off of those social media sites. Both of those lawsuits were actually thrown out. The question, of course, now is, can the former president make this lawsuit against CNN stick? And it's also important to note that CNN in the last 3 months have actually undergone some changes now, where the new parent company, the Discovery Channel, Discovery, has now said that they want to see CNN actually take a more bipartisan approach to their coverage of U.S. politics.
Well, it's interesting. I'm just reading here, Eric, that Mr. Trump claims that phrase has been used in reference to him more than 7,700 times on CNN since January 2021. Has there been any comment on that lawsuit from CNN?
That's a really good question. In fact, we did reach out to CNN as well as a number of outlets to get a response. CNN at this time is not commenting on this lawsuit that has been filed by the president. But in regards to that comment, the big lie, CNN is not the exclusive network. They don't have exclusivity to that phrase, the big lie. In fact, Charles, many other networks, many other media outlets have taken to using that term, the big lie. And the reason is because no judicial entity, including the Supreme Court, has actually suggested or believed that there was actual malfeasance in the election, that somehow the election was stolen from Donald Trump. As we know, a number of federal and circuit court judges have thrown out cases by Donald Trump suggesting that the election, in fact, was stolen.
So all this really just escalates the conflict that President Trump has had with media organizations, and that's not necessarily going to be good for him if he wants to run again.
Well, that's a really good point, Charles, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because in the lawsuit, what the president does make the claim is that with CNN making these arguments or somehow impugning his integrity, his reputation, it is making it difficult for him if, in fact, he should decide to run for president again in 2024. Now, the former president has not made a declaration that he is going to run, but he says that CNN has made this difficult if, in fact, that he should. And many believe that the former president, in fact, is planning a run for the White House in 2024. And of course, if, in fact, he does, he will be facing a cavalcade, frankly, of lawsuits ranging from the recently filed $250 million civil suit by the New York Attorney General Letitia James, as well as investigations into him criminally by the Department of Justice. And of course, we know about the criminal investigation into his efforts to try to bully the Secretary of State and Georgia to overturn the election there. So he's already facing a number of legal challenges that could certainly make it difficult for him financially, but also make it difficult for him in terms of actually staying out of prison as well.
And Eric, I don't know if you've already touched on this. If you have, I do apologize for making you repeat yourself. But what's the analysis that you're hearing about what chances the president has? I mean, legal analysis from legal experts of making any headway with this case against CNN, because I mean, I'm reading that there are no false statements of fact that were made with actual malice, and that makes it rather difficult for him to have any chance of winning.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, all we have to do is look at the number of cases that he has filed against other outlets, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Twitter, Facebook. All of those cases, Charles, were actually thrown out. And so I have spoken to a number of legal sources, to ask about, are there any merits to these claims, to these arguments that have been made by the former president? And many have pointed to those previous cases, those previous suits that were filed by Donald Trump. And what we have seen is Donald Trump has not been remotely successful in any of them. And so many believe that at this point, it's unclear if the former president will be successful in this lawsuit against CNN.
Eric, thanks very much indeed. Eric Ham, Arise U.S. correspondent, talking to me from Washington.